Hi there everybody, this is David, and today we're going to be talking about a Sony State of Play that might be coming up, as well as some leaks and rumors, and Nate the Hate chiming in on all of this, who is a really respected leaker, and who has a really good track record behind him of being pretty much always right. And I definitely do think it's worth a sub as you come and you join a party and you level on up with me. Thank you so much for your sub, your like, and your brand new hype. It helps me out a ton. So for the past 7 or so years now, Sony has always hosted a State of Play in the next couple of weeks, pretty much in like late May or really early June. And you know, it's going to be talking about the various games that are going to be coming out in the summer. So we have somebody called SM Vision over here, and he says, I can confirm that the State of Play will take place on May the 24th. Which is, I can also confirm that May the 24th is my 44th birthday, so happy birthday to me. However, I also know this because it is my birthday, that's on a Sunday, and Sony never, ever does much of anything on a Sunday, so I don't know how much I believe that leak. However, in this same thread, Nate the Hate comes in and he chimes on in, and he basically says, somebody says, hey, can you confirm that, is this the date of the State of Play? And he just says, hey, the 24th is a Sunday. Then somebody else comes on in, Riser, and he answers a lot of Riser's questions. He says, but is it true what's going on that Sony is going to bring back some IPs? Nate the Hate responds, there is truth to Sony exploring and considering reviving some of their older, unused IPs. He goes on to clarify his personal preference insofar as what IPs he would like to see. He says Sly Cooper, Resistance, Legend of Dragoon, Motorstorm, Ape Escape, and Infamous. He then goes on to say, I do not consider franchises like Uncharted or Bloodborne to be older yet. So he is specifically talking about older PS1, PS2 stuff, like the really older stuff that Sony started off with and then just kind of left for dead. He goes on to say, Legend of Dragoon is the one that he wants the most. And I've got to say, I feel like Legend of Dragoon is the obvious one. If Sony's going to go through and going to revive anything, Legend of Dragoon is definitely the one that they really should focus on. It is a cult classic. It's one that has really stood the test of time and still has a lot of fans, even though it's hasn't really been touched since, 26 something years. It came in as the Final Fantasy VII killer. It was just gonna, beat Square into the ground. There was magazine articles that actually called it the Final Fantasy VII killer. I'm not just bringing this up out of nowhere. This was totally a thing. I lived this. And then it was immediately followed by so many sequels. Yeah, because it really killed it, and there was no sequels whatsoever. But I think that right now, a remake of Legend of Dragoon would be a really smart move for Sony, and just kind of going through and reviving their older IPs would just be smart for Sony as well. I don't understand how Sony creates all these IPs and does nothing with them at all. If you look at Nintendo has older IPs from the 80s that are still going on strong. They have built up a brand with Mario and Zelda and Metroid and all these other, brands, and they're keeping them alive, and Sony just doesn't, and it doesn't make any sense to me. Clear Obscure came out, and they pretty much gave Sony a template, because Legend of Dragoon had that press turn combat system. It had, the additions and everything, and powering up the additions and hitting the X button at the right time. And it just seems like if they did a Clear Obscure thing with it, that would just be, easy for them to do, and I think that it would really sell like hotcakes. Some other RPGs that they have on their system, their very first RPG actually was Popo LaCroix. That is a Sony IP, and the creator died recently, unfortunately, so I don't think that they'd be revisiting that. The first RPG that we ever got in the West, also another Sony IP, was Beyond the Beyond, but that also was not really well received, even though the ending of Beyond the Beyond set it up for a sequel. We haven't seen hide nor hair of that. The strategy RPGs that they have available under their IP umbrella is Ark the Lad, and we got 3 of them on the PS1, we got 2 of them on the PS2, and then nothing else. But we also got Joan of Arc over on the PSP, and I didn't think that we were going to see anything more of that. It was beautiful. It was great. Done by Level 5. Absolutely freaking fantastic. Still a Sony IP. But recently, like a year or so ago, I want to say maybe 2 years ago, they put it over on the PSN for people to purchase. So I'm like, okay, well, maybe they're going to be reviving that one. Who knows? Speaking of which, another one of their flagship RPG series that I feel like is their #1 RPG series because it just went on for so long, but again, it died, and that's Wild Arms. We had 2 of them on the PlayStation 1, we had 3 of them on the PS2, we had XF over on the PSP, and, you know, we heard nothing of it. But Wild Arms is still extremely popular. It's getting that spiritual successor, Armed Fantasia, so there is a big demand for Wild Arms out there. And then recently, they released Wild Arms 4 over on the PSN as well, so maybe Wild Arms has a chance of being revived. That would be really nice. Another one, I'm just gonna go on through here. Legend of Legaia, like that was so interesting. That was so different from everything else. It like took a turn-based RPG, but did like this fighting game spin on it and everything, and it was just really neat. That I would love to see that one revived. I don't understand why these games aren't being revived. Now that Level 5 is bigger in the West and just kind of bigger in general, maybe they can partner with Sony and they can go on through and they can say, okay, you know what? Back in the day, Level 5 partnered with Sony. They gave us Joan of Arc. They gave us Dark Cloud. They gave us Rogue Galaxy. Yeah, we saw those in the West as Level 5 games, but they are Sony IP. They are owned by Sony, and now that Level 5 is back, why don't they get together again? Why don't we get another Dark Cloud, a Dark Cloud 3? Why don't we get a Rogue Galaxy 2? That would be great. Even go in and give us like I don't know how they could do a Joan of Arc 2, but they could look like another historical figure and create a strategy RPG based around that historical figure. Do something like a Joan of Arc, but a different historical figure, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, they could do so many different things. Level 5 and Sony together could do so many different things with that. Like, that would be absolutely great. Another game that we got on the PSP only, and then we saw nothing of it, no hide nor hair of it, was Brave Story New Traveler. Absolutely fantastic freaking game that came out on the PSP. I would love to see a remake of that game. I would love to see it fully fleshed out for a full console experience. That was based on a novel too, and it was really, really, really good. I would love to see something like that done. There are so many great Sony IPs out there for RPGs. I feel like the shoo-in again is Legend of Dragoon. I feel like Wild Arms has a huge chance of getting something going on in, and I feel like hopefully they will rekindle their bromance with Level 5 and give us something there as well. That would just be absolutely amazing. Now that, Nate the Hate is confirming that yes, Sony is looking to explore and revive their older unused IPs. So now I want to hear from you. What do you think about this news? Do you think that we're going to be seeing a Sony State of Play on May 24th on a Sunday on my birthday? Maybe. I don't think so, but maybe. Imagine if there's a Sony State of Play. I'm gonna be like, I'm in Mexico, I'm drunk in margaritas, but let's talk about this State of Play. That's gonna be a mess. That's gonna be a mess of a video right there, but that would be hysterical. That'd be a lot of fun right there. But yeah, now I want to hear from you. What do you think about this news? What do you think Sony might announce? What do you think they might revive? Let me know in the comments, and as always, have a good day.